Welcome back to Securing the Empire. Welcome to this video is about the 100-day blueprint that changes you from anything like an IT consultant, tech beginner into high earning cloud security engineer. I'm going to give you a blueprint. This job position is called a cloud security engineer, particularly incident response, and it can command $135,000 a year or more. Companies are desperately looking for people who can stop cyber attacks on their network, on their systems. And they're willing to pay a massive premium for those who understand how to do it. There are new types of adversaries coming out every single day with the new AI, quantum capabilities, and all that kind of stuff. There's new types of threats coming into this environment. These systems, network data, all this type of environment. So they need people that understand how to block these things out. And oftentimes they're willing to train too, of course, but you have to start from somewhere, right? So that this video is going to be about a 100-day roadmap to get enough to actually secure a job. So today we're going to skip the boring definitions. Okay, so I want to bring you up to speed and break it down as as granular as possible. And so we're going to dive straight into the exact step-by-step game plan that you need to land an elite job. All right. And an elite tech salary without wasting years guessing. All right. So especially if you're already in the tech field, if you're already consulting, this is good stuff that for you to learn to help. All right. So to earn a top tier salary, you must realize that every single hacker on earth has to try to sneak through one of the four digital checkpoints, I call it, right? So they might call it checkpoints, they might call it different names out there, but just understand that these four things, once you understand it, it makes life a lot more easier to continue to learn. First, you have the identity, right? The identity is just, think about simply confirming username and password of a person who is logging into a computer systems, right? Just the simply authenticating that person's identity, right? And then the second is the network, right? Which is the invisible highway and the pipelines, the data pipelines that connects the user to the company's computers and their crown jewel and the different parts of the computer and network systems. And then third, we are talking about the data model, which is simply a universal language translator that cleans up messy computer files so they're easy to read. But let's think of the first of all as data, right? Just data, just information, right? So that's another angle that that hackers will try to get into a system. And then fourth, we have endpoint, which is the physical laptop, phones, IoT devices, cloud servers that runs the actual software that they use for business. So if you can explain how data safely travels through these four checkpoints during an interview, you instantly sound like an expert who deserves a six-figure salary. So these are, if you want to break down the material into these four checkpoints, it will make your life a lot more easier. Now, during your first 30 days of learning, your only goal is to understand how companies collect their computer logs so they can spot bad guys. What is log? Like just information that, just think of it as the camera, like the camera in front of a building, right? For security purposes. So legacy security systems are a massive headache for bosses because they charge companies by the size of the files they save. So imagine recording every activity in front of the house. That takes space, right? From a digital standpoint, it takes memory, right? It takes storage, memory storage. So forcing teams to leave out because they have to manage the money, because it's costing them a lot of money to contain all of this information, we call them log, right? It can cost a harm and a fortune, right? So this is a headache for big bosses when it comes to cybersecurity, chief information security officer. I would call them the CISOs, right? So it can cost a arm and a leg. So if you can figure out a way to help them save money, that's something that's a major it's a major value that you can bring to an organization. So they are charged fortunes for this, okay? Just for the size of the files of just the log, just a record keeping of all the activities happening within a computer and network system. So we fixed this by, we fixed this with by setting up what they call the broker virtual machine, which acts like a, just think of it as a local security guard, right? On like a company's security, no, on the company's computer network system. It's like a local agent on their own platform that kind of like keep the data lake and then streams it first and then clean it up first before it send it out, so they don't get charged extra by these companies, right? So again, once the data arrives in the cloud, then they can use the universal formatting that you will have on different systems out there to actually siphon or to find out the information they will need to correlate together to track adversaries, to track the bad guys or hackers that might want to hurt the company, okay, by simply stealing data. What do I mean by data? I'm talking about personal identifying information. Let me repeat that. Personal identifiable information, we call it PII, or if you're in healthcare, they call it the personal health information, PHI, right? Which is why they have things like HIPAA to protect the privacies of patients. So if you can master this part of the data pipeline, okay, if you can master data pipeline as a checkpoint, remember we're talking about the 4 checkpoints, right? Identity, network, data, and then endpoints, right? If you can master the data pipeline, it proves to corporate leaders that you know how to give them 100% visibility, and of course, while slashing the cost of data storage. The bills is a major part of this operation. It's not just about securing the environment. It has to be done in a cost-effective manner, right? All right. So now in month 2, you will learn. I would suggest that you learn how to solve the single biggest problem that makes security workers quit their jobs. And what is that? It's called alert fatigue. Now, traditional security teams, they get burnt out because they get flooded with thousands of separate copy and paste text alerts every single day. Remember, I was talking about just logs, right? And those are logs of of information that they correlate to become alert. Like for example, a security alert that tells them that something is happening, right? So a lot of those alerts are fake. Okay, maybe not fake, but maybe like false logic. They call them false positives, right? So now having that one human being trying to read through 5,000 text messages a day, which means a real hacker can easily hide inside all that chaotic digital noise. So top earning engineers use intelligent incident stitching engine. Okay, so think AI, think machine learning. They use that to automatically match related events together. Okay, related events from multiple different companies' endpoints, networks, and clouds, which is also endpoints, and of course data, because they also inspect the data. They use that, they correlate together, use AI and machine learning. Okay, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Engineers know how to use tools to stitch them together to help clean up the noise, the messy noise, and that instantly condenses 5,000 messy alerts into just 10 high fidelity actionable incidents. All right, and that means it can save the team from exhaustion and ensuring that they can handle critical threats in a timely manner. Okay, that means they don't have to miss critical threats. All right, so now once that digital noise is cleared out, you need to show employers that you can find the exact source of a cyber attack in seconds instead of days. right? So again, it's new. It is a new skill set that you can learn now as opposed to picking up material from 10 years ago, right? So instead of staring at thousands of lines of boring raw text logs, which means you can easily miss very important information, you can use visual process execution trees, right? So for example, in the Cortex, they call a particular module or portfolio of the Palo Alto. This Palo Alto is, by the way, if you don't know what Palo Alto is, it's a vendor. Okay, it's a vendor, and they have a portfolio of products called the Cortex. So inside of one of them, they call the XOR. I have another video on this platform called the XOR Engineer. Inside of that, there's a view, right? There's a module view called the casualty card. And what it does allow you to see the visual process execution tree, to actually see how we got to a point where an alert was created or an incident alert was created. You can actually see how it happened. All right, the screen maps out a cyber attack exactly like a family tree. It's showing you exactly the single trick that linked all the way through like an Outlook launched launched process tree, how it actually launched a web browser, how it triggered a hidden background script to steal files, right? These are the kind of things we're trying to avoid, right? So by looking at that tree in just one view, from just looking at it, you can see like a clear visual timeline. Even a complete beginner can instantly see where the threat started and exactly where it tried to go. So being able to see that again, like in seconds, and being able to use these visual tools to drop investigation times from hours down to seconds is the exact skill that can command a $135,000 per year paycheck. All right. Now, in the final phase of your 100-day journey, you will learn to replace slow manual human tasks with automated machine speed responses. All right, so if a human worker takes 4 hours, for example, to manually read a ticket and click a button to stop a hacker, right, a ransomware will already have would have already locked up a multi-million-dollar company network. That takes so long that it's just so dangerous, right? So we use visual drag and drop workflow engines called the SOAR playbook. So SOAR, I'm pronouncing SOAR, okay? And the SOAR stands for security orchestration and automation response, right? And so the SOAR playbooks are used to automate repetitive tasks like looking up malicious files, looking up a file, looking up the identity, the user information. You can do all of that instantly, right? So you keep things perfectly safe. You can act quickly, and these automated scripts are executed inside an isolated temporary digital sandbox called Docker containers. So if you're not familiar with cloud, that may sound strange to you. Just Google search for it. You learn something new. All right. So, but they are kept inside a sandbox Docker containers to, just in case a bad script, is able to sneak through, it doesn't crash the core company servers. Okay. So you learn how to isolate defense to machine to machine speed very quickly. And again, so if people are complaining about their job is getting replaced and stuff like that, this is why. Because people, again, they're getting stuck on 5 years ago material or skill set. Okay, this is how you can help companies accelerate defense to machine speed, and while still keeping their processes, their exact workflows, you keep them intact. Okay. And there's still a place for manual checkpoint where a human is still need to click approve. So again, just clicking approve is different from taking days to navigate through 5,000 text to try to look for adversaries, right? So again, humans are still needed. The question is how much humans are needed for the same task over and over. Okay. Yeah. So that's where we're going. So even in cybersecurity, you have to start thinking, not start thinking, you should already be thinking AI and machine learning. All right. So now, let's talk about some documents. Just in case you decide to go the consulting route, you can go the consulting route in cybersecurity as well. And if you want to get hired as a high value consultant, you have to show managers that you have a disciplined professional process for managing your projects. So for those of you that are maybe PMP certified, and you see all those people that are getting laid off on Scrum, and you don't know what to do with it because you don't have a specialty, cybersecurity might be an area where you want to pay attention to, because then it can give you a specialty, because you might be needed more than you realize, right? So we never start. Here's why you're needed. We never really start a software trial or change a network configuration without a signed success criteria matrix. That is a document. That's an actual document that we need, that your skills are needed for, right? So, and what that does is that it locks down the exact technical goals that they need to hit when they deploy or migrate from an older system into a new system, or they deploy a new software, okay? Because of the audience that I send this to, I know that some of you are already familiar with go lives. You're familiar with migration project. You're familiar with update project or software deployment projects, right? Implementation projects, right? So if you can find a way to navigate your way into this skill set, you can bring some of those skills, Scrum, Safe, PMI, PMP, right? If you have those certifications, or you've gone through some of those before, those are extremely useful in the world we're moving into. So all this deployment of new AI tools, agentic AI, all this stuff, you can be very useful, but they need you to have a layer of technical skills, okay? And this can be one of them, okay? So if you want to run through, for example, they want to run like a test, right? Or they want to run what they call a proof of value, right? At the end of that test, you can be the person to help them build what they call the value realization report, using real metrics to mathematically prove to for example, a chief information security officer, a CISO, that the solution saved them time and money, because that's what it all comes down to, right? It needs to mean value for them. And then, of course, finally, we turned those wins into an official blueprint called the high-level design. That's also a skill set that doesn't involve you coding, but again, this is a phrase that you can actually Google and search for, and you can improve yourself. Now, that single document is called the high-level design. That single document serves as the master blueprint that aligns the company's network, the identity, and the cloud teams. Remember the checkpoints, right? Identity, data, network, endpoints, right? So now, if you start thinking that through, it's starting to make sense. You can start breaking things down from. So again, that document is what becomes the master blueprint that aligns the company's network, identity, and cloud teams. Cloud teams will be part of the endpoint team, right? That align them under one clear, unified design layout. And you can be the person to help them put that together. So this is in consulting capacity, which can still be salary based. Sometimes this comes with big bonuses, and this salary can go as much as up to $175,000 to $225,000 a year. So it just depends on where you find yourself. All right, so now let's look at a real world example of how this automation saves the day when a massive hospital buys a smaller medical clinic, right? Remember, migration, acquisition projects. Let's say, for example, doctors and nurses in a particular small remote clinic that was just purchased by a bigger organization, right? You would think they would naturally plug in unmanaged devices. They are actually going to attempt to plug in unmanaged devices, or something that was missed during an inventory session, right? Or during a discovery session. They would attempt to plug in local printers and laptops without telling the IT department, creating, of course, a high-risk security blind spot for an organization security posture, or let's just call it computer systems, right? So instead of applying a harsh rule that blocks the device and accidentally stops patient care, right? Think about an automated gateway that instantly profiles the device's behavior and isolate it into a secure segment within 60 seconds. That means they can still use it, but at least they're monitoring what's going on. But you can also they can put a script in it that can actually generate an IT service ticket and that completely enriched the ticket with information from identity, who was logged in trying to use this, right? What is the actual network ports and IP addresses of where this was plugged into, the MAC addresses, right? What are the exact switch location? For those of you that understand network, you might understand what I'm talking about. What is the hardware footprint, right? So the ticket can actually be enriched with all of this information. And so instead of having them back in the days means 2 years ago, where incident response have to involve having to go look for all those information, or you're typing in commands into command line interfaces looking for all this information, but everything is automatically correlated together into one ticket, and that creates a ticket for the necessary engineer to work on. So imagine what I just said. That would turn a chaotic security vulnerability into a very smooth onboarding workflow. So there's a new device that nobody knew existed, but now they can actually go through a simple workflow to get it onboarded properly, and then that allows the desktop support teams to safely verify the asset with zero business downtime. You might want to rewind the last 3 minutes, okay? But just look at the screen, and these are the kind of stuff that if you learn how to do this and you master it, you become hot cake. And this is anywhere in the world, by the way. I'm talking United States mostly, but just anywhere in the world where computer systems are valuable assets for an organization. All right, so now breaking into this industry and securing a $135,000 salary comes down to checking off 3 distinct 30-day milestones. Okay, it's work that you can actually do and you can pace yourself. It gets better by every single day. Okay, so day 1 to 30 are all about mastering the data pipeline, understanding how logs are collected. Logs meaning, just think of, again, if you're new to this and understand, just think about all the video recordings from a camera outside of your home, right? All right, so those are logs in computer systems, something that records all the activities in the environment, how files are moving, how data moves from one pipeline to another through the network, and who's logged in, identity, right? And from what devices, endpoints. Those 4 checkpoints, remember that, right? And so again, let me just repeat that. Day 1 through 30 is about mastering the data pipeline between all of those checkpoints, right? How the logs are collected, and learning how a data model normalizes information using AI and machine learning. That's the angle you need to be looking at. Now, for you to understand that, it might be beneficial for you to learn how a traditional incident response operation in a security operations center works. It's easy, stuff you can search for, okay? Once you understand the basics of simple computer systems, CPU, a monitor, and a keyboard. All right, days 31 to 60 are about destroying alert fatigue, right? So you're getting all this alerts, all right? You're getting all this alert that says there might be a problem. 5,000 alerts per day, right? How can you use automated incident stitching using artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? And mastering the visual root cause analysis. You're simply looking at a dashboard similar to what you're doing right now, right? And you're able to understand that. Again, all those alert fatigue, how do they trace to like one simple high fidelity alert? Mastering that is something you can take day 31 to 60 to work on. And then days 61 to 100 are about building automated playbooks. Okay, remember the XSOAR. XSOAR is the actual brand for the SOAR in the Cortex portfolio of the Palo Alto Network vendor. Okay, so Palo Alto Network is the name of the company, kind of like similar to Microsoft, right? And they have a Cortex portfolio, which is a group of products, right, and features, right? So one of them is XSOAR, which is a SOAR. It's a SOAR tool. It's called SOAR, which is security, orchestration, and automation response, right? It's basically automating incident response, right? And so they set up playbooks that automate a lot of this repetitive task that humans would have to manually do in the past, right? So if you're able to build automated playbooks and learn the script driven logic, okay, meaning if you have a small Python programming skills, it goes a long way. And a of course, if you can prove the financial value to a corporate C-suite, that's what you might want to focus your day 61 to 100 on. So focus your energy on mastering these core data flows, and you will become the exact high-value security leader that top-tier companies are racing to hire. Okay, now that process is still the same process you have to go through to get hired, but it's just not too many people competing in this environment. Okay, not as much as in Scrum, product management, or project management. Not as many people. You can land a lot of interviews, and you can use those interviews to actually boost your skill set as well. All right. Now, to secure a $135,000 salary, you must understand that while Palo Alto is a market leader, right? Palo Alto Network, they share the stage with a few other industry titans, and whether a company uses Palo Alto Cortex, CrowdStrike is another one, Microsoft, or SentinelOne, they are all fundamentally built on the exact same data principles that we've discussed. CrowdStrike is essentially the lightweight, heavyweight, famous for its speed. Microsoft is the enterprise giant, baked into every office already, right? So, and SentinelOne is the AI specialist known for its fast rollback features. You might want to check that out as well. I'm actually going to dig a little bit deeper into that as well. Now, the secret to being a high value engineer is realizing that you're not just learning one tool. Okay, you need to try to be a tool or platform or ecosystem agnostic, meaning you're learning you're learning not fundamentals but the concepts. Okay, you're conceptualizing. That's why I taught you the checkpoints. You understand how everything flows from identity to data to network and from the endpoints, right? So you're learning the universal language of threat defense. Very, very important. So if you understand how to ingest logs, okay, meaning sucking the data file of all these recordings of all the activities so we can monitor what's going on in the computer and network systems. If you understand how to stitch the incidents together, the what they call IOC, incidents of compromise, together and run automated playbooks, you can walk into an interview for any of these platforms and speak with total authority. And by mastering the architectural pieces of the blueprint, the architectural blueprints, right, of everything we've discussed today, be it Cortex portfolio or the Microsoft environment, CrowdStrike, you will gain a master key that unlocks high pay career and salary, right? And you can enter the entire global cybersecurity landscape. Okay, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Okay, I happen to be in the United States, but it doesn't matter where you are. Okay, so if an organization is shopping for a massive, let's say for example, a massive security operation center solution, maybe they're swamped by alert fatigue, and their security analysts are quitting on them because of overwhelm or pressure, too much pressure. They are almost always looking at Cortex. Okay, that's the Palo Alto version of this. So, but they're also looking at maybe 2 or 3 other fiercest platforms like CrowdStrike. Like I said, CrowdStrike, Microsoft, SentinelOne. There might be a few other ones out there, but those are the top 2 or 3 right there that you're looking at on the screen. All right, so that's all I have for you on this one. If you like this content, please hit the like button. I'll be bringing more to you. Hit the like button. If there's anything that you find more interesting, you want me to break down a little bit more, just leave a comment, okay? But if you're looking for contact information, some additional lesson notes, look at the link in the screen. You can also send an email to supportnow@myempirepro.com. All right? Take care and God bless.